From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on April 17th, 2026 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. On this episode of The Lede, we have a lot. It's that time of year. That's it. That's all it is. I'm going to leave it there.
You sure about that?
No. We spoke with House Speaker Murrell Smith and Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey this week about what the final 4 weeks of session hold, including what may happen with that Senate abortion bill that everyone keeps talking about that I've covered all week. And we get the annual State of the Judiciary update and a 2028 watch.
2028 watch.
With another potential candidate visiting our state this week and another one definitively ruling out 2028.
Interesting.
Could you imagine? Can't even. Maybe 2032 watch.
2032 watch.
Load it. Also, check out the State House gavel, especially during these crazy days as we sprint towards Sunny Day. You can find that at scetv.org/the gavel, where Tuesday through Friday, my instructor and myself bring you recaps, previews, big and small State House moments, meeting schedule, highlights, photos, videos, and more. Emphasis on the more. We have some of that in today's pod, and we want to have you in today's pod, or one pod going forward, for the low cost of nothing by calling 803-563-7169. Just your time. Give us a shout, a few moments to tell us what's going on in your world. Maybe you're on vacation. We're getting a lot of vacation calls. I love that. Also, we will have some debates coming up, guys, so feel free to suggest some questions that you might want answered by some of the candidates on both sides of the aisle. 803-563-7169. We're crossing over. Welcome, folks. And it seemed like only yesterday we were talking about previews on previews on previews about what was going to be accomplished this session as we are at this crossover crossroads. Of course, like we talk about, they don't really celebrate Crossover Day anymore, but this podcast does. We observe it, and it serves as the day a month from Sine Die, the last day of session, May 14th. That happened this week, April 14th, in which if a bill has yet to reach the other chamber, it faces steep odds of making it to the governor's desk by the time the gavel comes down at 5 p.m., May 14th, Sine Die. Now, things are even more dire since this is the official end of the 2-year session, meaning nothing is carried over to next year. They cross over in a different kind of way. So we'll get some more details about where things stand shortly. But again, we wrapped up week 14 here, and there are now 12 legislative working days left. But really, when you do the math, it's actually less than that. That's because the Senate will be on the budget next week. That takes up all their time. And when you factor in required readings for each bill in each chamber, you really have to count the final week if a bill isn't already over to the other chamber. So you're really kind of talking about like 6 days here if you're lucky. Of course, there's also going to be conference committees going on where bills are being reconciled between both chambers. If it's not in motion, if it's not in a conference committee, if it's not on its way to the governor's desk by the end of the workday on May 14th, then it's going to be DEA dead. So that being said, a lot of activity this week surrounding a new restrictive abortion bill, S-1095, and that was passed out of a Senate Medical Affairs subcommittee and is currently being debated in the full Senate Medical Affairs Committee, which will continue those discussions next Tuesday. There has been a lot of concern among Democrats and opponents of this bill as it seems like a last-minute push, truly bookending this year's session with abortion. However, it's a bit more complicated than that, especially when you're talking about such a controversial bill that would penalize doctors and women for getting illegal abortions, which would be for anything other than saving the life of the mother. That's right, this bill will get rid of current limited exceptions for rape and incest and fatal fetal anomaly, and also classify abortion-inducing drugs as Schedule IV controlled substances. Now, you may remember that there was a bill that was passed by the House in February that did just that for rescheduling those abortion drugs. That's incorporated in this bill, like I just said, but it's not the actual bill itself. So you would think, why aren't they just taking out that bill that was already passed by the House in the Senate? Not for me to say. It sounds like some of the proponents of this legislation really want more, and that's what they're pushing for in this bill, which is an amalgamation of a lot of other bills that have not progressed. Listen, I don't make the bills around here, but I did talk to someone who's kind of in control of how things run around the Senate, and that was Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey. And I asked him a couple times about this, really tried to pin him on this because he's pretty clear on where things stand with this bill specifically. And I was just trying to cover all of our bases here. But listen to this conversation we had on Wednesday along with some other other reporters about this bill and some other things.
All I can tell you is there has been zero conversation about that bill at all.
Have you read it at all? Have you been following it? I mean, it seems like a compromise what Cash is trying to do by melding a couple bills, including that abortion-inducing drug bill.
I have not looked at it. Okay. We've had no conversation among the caucus about that bill at all.
So don't give your hopes up for the members of that committee or the authors.
I mean, look, that subject matter, as y'all know, that's one that's very emotional. And it's one that requires a conversation within the caucus before anything happens. There has been no conversation at all.
Practically speaking, is there enough time to actually take that up?
Well, it's a Senate bill, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, as I've said both privately and publicly, I think if there was a contested Senate bill that we wanted to do, we should do it this week.
Crossover week, what it used to be called. We don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's not technically crossover week, but you got to think we're doing the budget next week. You got with 3 weeks after that. Whatever we do here, a Senate bill is going to have to get 3 readings over there. It's most likely going to have committee work, and just realistically, if it's anything controversial, it's going to take time here and time over there. When you have at that point, you're going to have at most 9 days. And I just think whatever the issue is, if it's a controversial issue that's originating here, it's going to be difficult to happen unless it's already been done.
So despite rumors flying around the State House, this is what I'm choosing to believe since the man Heike runs that chamber. So speaking of that, here's what he had to say as we approach
the final days.
I suspect you will see some committee work, probably the week after the budget would be my guess. I think it'd be difficult to have committee work on anything thereafter, because even if it's a House bill, which is what I would expect the committee work to be, or we may still have some confirmation hearings that we need to go through. I'm hoping that we're going to have some confirmation votes either tomorrow or Tuesday, and then we'll probably have another round by the end of the last week, I would think. But if you wait till after the budget, you got 3 weeks left. If you don't have a full committee meeting that following week, if you get into that next week, which is you're down to 6 days, if something comes out of committee on a Tuesday, it gets read across the desk on a Wednesday, it's going to get 24-hour pointed on Thursday, you got 3 days left. And that's your best case scenario. You got 3 days left to get two votes. And at the end of a 2-year session, y'all know how that last week's going to be. It's going to be chaos with stuff flying back and forth, and you're going to have conference reports are probably going to start coming in too, because we'll have some conference committees meeting, I hope. You're going to have that last week, it's just going to be very difficult to do anything. So I think if they're going to have House bills coming out of committee, it's going to have to be that Tuesday, maybe Wednesday of that week after next, or else you're just going to run out of time, unless it's a confirmation.
We have some more scene setting for you in these
final days.
Oh boy. Did you sound like the sound of that? Speaking of, Mayan and I also caught up with House Speaker Murrell Smith on Wednesdays. A busy Wednesday, a lot of content in the gavel on Thursday, I'll tell you that. Since we were live on State House Today, which you can watch on YouTube or over the air at the start of each legislative day, you can hear me in this clip hollering at House Speaker Murrell Smith because he graciously gave us 6 minutes to provide an update on what's going on in the chamber. Here's our interview. You want to jump on? We're live right now. We'll get you right in the middle. Speaker Murrell Smith, welcome back. It's right here. It's Wednesday. What's it going to be like? You only have so many Wednesdays left in this session. We're just talking about what needs to be done to wrap things up before sine die.
Yeah, this is our 5th Wednesday that we have right now. So we're going to get through the uncontested calendar. What we're doing this week is really the last week of having House bills. In reality, if we don't get them passed by this week, it'd be very difficult for the Senate to be able to take up those bills, so we're trying to get those bills done. We'll put some emphasis on the roads bill. Hopefully we'll get to that next week. and try to get some. We'll probably take up the Senate bill, I would imagine, and see about getting that back to them so we can get it into conference soon. So that's what we have going on right now, and obviously the budget's lurking in the background. They take that up in the Senate next week, and then it comes back to the House, and we have to concentrate on that. But we're getting towards the end of the session, so things fly fast and furious at this time, and it's just trying to work our way through it in an orderly manner and keep communicating with the Senate on what their priorities are and the House priorities to make sure that we can get some of this to the finish line, because this is the end of the session. If bills don't get passed this year, then they're dead and has to start over again.
I want to ask you about the budget. The Senate's going to be debating it on the floor. There were some major differences between the House and the Senate versions. I'm wondering if you can kind of forecast any particular fights. We've seen some over sled labs and veterinary schools, what you might expect out of that.
Yeah, I have not seen the spreadsheet from the Senate yet, and obviously we have to work our way through there. But there are always differences. But I know it's good for the media to say that we have these huge differences and they're hard to be reconciled, but I've been here for 20 plus years and we always reconcile the issues on the budget, and I anticipate that to happen. And we got two great chairmen, Chairman Peeler and Chairman Bannister, who can handle that, and I feel confident that we'll have a budget before the fiscal year ends, and that it'll all be a good budget that does a lot for South Carolina.
And today, you and the Senate leaders and other House leaders and the governor on tax filing day held a ceremonial bill signing for the income tax legislation. What are you most proud about that bill? And you did discuss a little bit some of the pushback that there has been in public about some of the folks who are going to see a higher, given the fact that the rates are moving from 0 to 1.99 for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this has been years in the making. And it's been since Mark Sanford, Governor Sanford, he's been advocating to lower our rate. And this is really the first time that we've done it in two tranches. As we remember, we did in 2022, raised it from 7% to 6%, lowered the rate to 6%. And now we've lowered the rate to 5.2% in essence now. And those who make under $30,000 will be at 1.99. So we are now competitive with our neighbors. And I think that's the biggest part of this whole bill, is that we were not competitive with Georgia, North Carolina, nor any of our southeastern neighbors, and so we've gotten there. And for the critics who say that we're raising taxes on people, it's 75% of the people are paying less taxes. So that is not raising taxes, but there are some who are going to be affected. But those are the ones, though, unfortunately, due to the system that we had and inequities, 46% of South Carolinians who earn wages did not pay any income taxes. And in order to have government services, you have to have everybody pay the lowest and the flattest tax. And so flattening it out means everybody has to pay some taxes. And the beauty of it is it's based on your income. So the less you make, the less you pay, and the more you make, the more you pay. And so I think it's now a fair system. And most importantly, it is not tied to the federal government anymore. And we were one of 6 states which it was tied to the federal tax code. And so now South Carolina controls tax policy, not Washington, D.C. controlling our tax policy.
I was going to say, Speaker, just look at the calendar. You guys are going to work through the calendar. Are you going to concur on those Senate amendments to H 4756, the bathroom bill?
I anticipate that's what we're going to do.
And then also looking forward, you were talking about SCETV modernization next week. Do you foresee that being a long debate? Any sticking points there?
Well, I'm sure it's an omnibus bill, and a lot of people have concerns or questions, and we'll have to work our way through it. But at the end of the day, we have to modernize our transportation system. You look at Georgia, you look at North Carolina, you look at Florida, they have express lanes. We do not have that. We have tremendous congestion in our urban areas. So we need to modernize, and we need to also be more efficient, take these regulations out that have bogged things down, deal with NEPA and other issues that will expedite the ability to build roads so it doesn't take years in the making before you can even start building roads.
Y'all are going to hear from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court today. Anything in particular that you hope to hear from him at all?
Well, I mean, again, appreciate the Chief Justice's service, and he is doing a wonderful job of modernizing the court, in my opinion. But, one thing that's important to me is what is happening in Bamberg, a rural county in which there's a courthouse that is uninhabitable. And so they cannot hold court. It's a danger for those who are litigants who are going in there. It's a danger for the judges, for the lawyers, for everybody. And so, I hope he brings to our attention again the necessity that the state's going to have to step in and help with the Bamberg courthouse, because that cannot be done by that county. It's a poor rural county that cannot afford to rebuild a courthouse.
To follow up on that SCDOT modernization bill debate, it sounds like that's actually going to be pushed back to the week of April 28th. Also on Wednesday was a joint assembly with the Senate visiting the House chamber to hear from State Supreme Court Chief Justice John Kittredge, who gave an update on the judicial branch which he oversees. He focused his 45-minute-long remarks to 4 areas, including judicial reform, infrastructure and data, judicial excellence, and pursuing justice for every case. Here's Kittredge coming out directly on judicial reform, something you hear a lot about from the campaign trail and in the legislature.
We in the judiciary, like you, are aware of the half-truths and false narratives that circulate on social media, podcasts, and other outlets masquerading as journalism, attacking you and our justice system. I believe you understand that judges, we are bound by ethical constraints, and those rules prohibit judges from responding to attacks against court decisions, no matter how false or outrageous the allegation may be. One attack levied against the legislature is the method of judicial selection. And I want to offer a brief comment on judicial selection. There are many ways judges can be appointed. And for lawyers who aspire to pursue a public service career on the bench, we leave it to you to determine what changes, if any, are needed in the method of selecting judges. There is no perfect way to select judges. But I suggest to you that the legislature has elected quality judges over the years. When this legislative body of 170 diverse members individually vets judicial candidates and then collectively elects judges, that diffusion of authority enhances merit selection. Were one person allowed to completely control the selection process, we would expose the process to the potential of having political considerations driving the process and not merit. I simply say that I know firsthand South Carolina has one of the finest judiciaries in the country.
Of the 5 state Supreme Court justices, all were present except Justice John Cannon Few, who you may remember dropped out of his re-election race the day before the State House vote in early March since he didn't have enough votes to get re-elected, reportedly due to his temperament. But Kittredge told all 170 members of the General Assembly that he is open to talking to all members and said he believes there is a positive relationship between the two branches. He credited lawmakers in providing support to continue modernizing the judiciary, which included the need for more circuit court judges as the state's population grows at a rate of around 6,600 a month.
As South Carolina grows at a rate we've never seen before, let us acknowledge the obvious. The increase in judicial resources since the year 2000 is far less than the actual population increase and court filing increase. Here's another look. Courts often will measure their ability to provide a justice system by the number of judges per 100,000 population. Looking to our general jurisdiction court, our circuit court, we have 53 circuit judges. That gives us 0.97, less than 1, 0.97 judges per 100,000 population. We are requesting in this year's budget 4 additional resident circuit judges in targeted areas of need. If we are successful in increasing our number of circuit judges from 53 to 57, our ratio would be 1.04 judges per 100,000. That would be an improvement. But how do we stack up with some sister states in the Southeast? Based on data furnished by the National Center of State Courts, Tennessee has 2.3 judges per 100,000 population. Alabama has 3.3 judges per 100,000. We're behind other states, but the 4 additional circuit judges would move us in a positive direction.
Challenges also facing the judicial system include court security, recruitment and retention of judges, magistrate reforms, AI, funding overall, and more. But another major issue is infrastructure and the state of some courthouses. But the case backlog has always been a sticking point, and that was exacerbated because of COVID. Remember, everything kind of shut down. That included courts, so those cases really got jammed up. But numbers across the different courts are dropping, including in criminal cases that saw a 17.5% decrease in cases 3 years or older.
You can see that a few years back, there were 77,789 cases filed and almost 15,000 still pending after 2 years. Look at the yearly trend, a tremendous increase in cases filed. We went from almost 78,000 cases filed to more than 100,000 cases filed last year in 2025. And we expect such a dramatic increase with the population boom across South Carolina. Yet look at the decrease in cases more than 2 years old. Almost 15,000 cases were pending at the end of 2021. And at the end of 2025, there were only 9,200 cases pending. The big picture is this: a 28% increase in new cases, yet we were able to reduce the civil backlog of cases pending more than 2 years by about 37%.
And again, that was State Supreme Court Chief Justice John Kittredge with the annual State of the Judiciary before a joint assembly. And I asked Senator Massey about Kittredge's remarks specifically on judicial reform.
Well, I mean, I think he has an interesting perspective. I mean, he's been through the confirmation the election process, which includes the JMSC screenings. He's been successful and unsuccessful in different stages. I think he's the only person who's served at family court, circuit court, Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court, and now Chief Justice. So he's been through that. He's seen how it works. He also has a unique perspective in that as Chief Justice, he gets to go around the country and he gets to interact with other Chief Justices, and he gets to see how things are working in other states. So, and if you ask him about that, I think what he would tell you is what he hears from other chiefs is that they have really difficult relationships with their legislatures, but that there are 2 states that seem to have a very good relationship with their legislature, those 2 states being South Carolina and Virginia. And there is one commonality between South Carolina and Virginia, and that is that the legislature plays a role in selecting those judges.
All right, and kind of wrapping up the podcast, we have a little 2028 watch.
2028 watch.
That's right. We're looking ahead. And former South Carolina governor and former U.S. United Nations ambassador Nikki Haley said she will not be reviving her 2024 presidential bid in 2028. The comments came Sunday on CNN's State of the Union with Dana Bash.
Ambassador, I covered your presidential campaign in 2024, and at the time, you said Donald Trump was unhinged and diminished. Do you still feel that way?
I think that he has the ability to cause chaos, and I think he has the ability to cause distractions. But I think the way that when I look at how he's managed, the immigration effort, which was a catastrophe, I think he's handled that well. When I look at the fact that he's dealing with our adversaries in a way that's strong and not weak, I think that's incredibly important. I think that a lot of the things that he has done, he's done well. It's just sometimes how he does it that causes chaos. But, now the biggest issue is going to be the economy. We've got to look at our debt. We're at $39 trillion in debt. We'll have $40 trillion in October. Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 6 years. That's going to affect 75 million Americans. Republicans and Democrats need to focus on our debt, on the entitlements, on our economy. It's the biggest issue we're facing domestically right now.
Before I let you go real quick, the vice president took on a pretty high-profile role in these talks. Do you think that Vice President Vance should be your party's next presidential nominee?
I think it's too soon to tell. I think that primaries are healthy. I think a year is a lifetime in politics. I think we'll be having a different conversation a year from now. Who's going to be in that? I have no idea.
Will you?
I will not.
The rare straight-up response right there from Nikki Haley. Now, I was a bit shocked by this, considering how wide open 2028 is going to be and how Haley's distance herself from the administration could provide an outsider track for her. Alas, who am I to say? Though I'll say we never count Haley out. And then there's always the potential for a future cabinet position, running mate, etc. Keeping with 2028, former Vice President Kamala Harris took a swing through the Palmetto State this week, meeting with Democrats and touting her new book. Harris, who says she is thinking about a 2028 presidential run, spoke in Columbia on Thursday night to promote her new book, 107 Days, which centers on the days between former President Joe Biden's exit in the 2024 race to Election Day. Now, her comments, thinking about a potential bid, is about as close to the point as she got, especially as she's, wrapping up a tour through South Carolina, a key early presidential primary voting state. So she was speaking at Township Auditorium here in Columbia on Thursday evening. I was there, but we were not allowed to record audio, so I'm going to do my own rendition. I'll read you some of the things that she was saying, including her hot takes and her shout-outs and her inspirational advice to people who, when you're talking to a lot of Democrats, a lot of people against the administration needed to kind of hear. And she said about the race itself that she, quote, needed to reflect after it was over because there was no time to do so while it was happening. And she also gave a shout out to University of South Carolina women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. That got a huge applause line there. And it was interesting to see that interaction too. But she also mentioned some advice. She said, quote, don't ever allow other people's limited ability to understand your capacity to be a limitation on your perspective of what you can do. A lot of people like that quote. Now, for over an hour, Harris mixed her remarks with advice and takes on President Donald Trump and members of Congress. In at one point just calling Trump a straight-up liar, saying, quote, what he has done, in effect, is made America unreliable, Harris said. So in addition to the cost of gas, he's making America an unreliable partner and actor as it relates to global affairs, specifically pointing to everything going on in the Middle East right now. She also told the audience that she has high hopes for Democrats in the midterms, but added that voters need to be prepared, saying, quote, my prediction is they're not going to cancel elections. They're just going to make it so difficult to vote. So we got to get ready, quote. So I hope I did a good job since we have the audio. And on the way out, talking about midterms, Cook Political Report tweeted that with an increasingly sour national environment for Republicans, the Senate battlefield is shifting. Everyone's always talking about the House and how the House is kind of like assumed to flip this year. It's been a little bit trickier when it comes to the Senate because of some of these races, but Cook Political Report has moved 4 ratings all towards Democrats. That includes the Senate race in Nebraska going from solid Republican to likely Republican, in Ohio going from lean Republican to toss-up, and our neighbors in North Carolina and Georgia going from toss-up to lean Democrat. You're talking about in Georgia with Democratic Senator John Ossoff, who has about a $25 million war chest. That's nothing to shake a stick at. And then you go to North Carolina with former North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, who's facing off against former RNC Chairman Michael Whatley. And Cooper has raised $21 million so far to Whatley's $6.3 million for this cycle. So a lot going on in our neighboring states, including our neighboring state of Nebraska. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We're glad you're here, along with A.T. Shire, lead podcast producer. Hello, A.T.
Hello, Gavin. Hello to all our neighbors in Nebraska.
Actually, we are international, but they can't carry us in Nebraska. It's a weird carve out.
Strange. No Nebraska lead. Anyway, Gavin, we do have a call, and it's an old friend checking back in if you're ready.
Yes, I would love to hear from an old friend.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, guys. This is correspondent Kevin on location at the Masters, Augusta National. It's in Georgia. It's this little state across the river. Just enjoying pimento sandwiches, egg sandwiches, chicken salad sandwiches, regular chicken sandwiches, and barbecue sandwiches. So it's pretty much sandwiches for less than $2, which is prime gourmet food. And yeah, lots of shopping. And there's some kind of tournament thing going on. Some people are like hitting the ball around. It's weird. But yes, long time no call. Keep doing what you're doing. Looking forward to the upcoming summer. And again, have a good one. Bye.
Correspondent Kevin with a tradition unlike any other right there.
I
can't even comprehend that.
I know that the Masters, they have like a phone bank where you can make a free call to anywhere in the world.
You ain't got no cell phone.
No, you're not allowed your cell phone, so they have this phone bank that you could call anyone. When I was there, I called my dad. But of course, I should have called the hotline and talked in there.
Who would have thought,
Kevin, this is such a good idea. I also love that we're probably one of the only phone numbers that people are interfacing with regularly.
Stick within their brain.
So, yeah, this is a perfect idea.
It is an overwhelming experience. You were there. You maybe didn't have the mindset to be like, oh, yeah, let me call in the hopper. But I will say that getting a call from the Masters is top tier, and it's up there behind prison call. Airplane call and Air Force One call, right?
It's above car phone call from the 90s, but it's really sick. Kevin, really awesome. Those sandwiches,
tell us.
They are $2, and that they
they actually $2 taste?
They taste like $2 sandwiches. The best part is you're just drunk on. I honestly think that the sandwich conversation, the Master sandwich and food conversation.
We talked about this before, but yes.
Is because you're not allowed your phone in there. You can't virtue signal in any other way than to say, well, there's this special thing there that you can only get while you're there, okay, folks? Because they do suck. They are not good sandwiches, And
but it doesn't matter.
But you can only get it there.
Yeah. How much is a drink?
It's not everything is incredibly.
It's just maintained.
Well,
probably
priced
because it's all offset by the merch sales. I mean,
the merch sales
that's insane.
If you go back and listen to my time after going to the Masters in 2022, I think it was. The only way I can describe the men's T-shirt area is the floor of the New York Stock Exchange in the 80s. It's just a bunch of dudes going,
You walk out with a bunch of missized. It doesn't matter.
I saw it and I just turned around and I go, okay, I'm going to go buy Caitlin a shirt. And I got her a shirt in less than 2 minutes. Okay. It would have been over an hour.
Figure out your sizes in men and women's shirts, guys.
Do the conversions. Yeah. They were the same T-shirts.
Well,
it was crazy.
It is crazy. And I was funny the other day. I was walking out of the gym. And how people put stuff on their dashboards, especially on their big old pickup trucks. Talk about virtue signaling. I saw someone's fresh Masters hat right there, and I said, "I'm like that. You might as well put a couple $100 right on someone's I was like, I could smash the window. Not that we're advocating this by any means." But
he
just
could.
snag it.
He could.
And just do it. I'm like, it's like having a Yeti in your bed in the pickup truck bed. It's like people can just snag that stuff, guys.
The Facebook Marketplace after the Masters around here is crazy because everyone when I was walking in the first time, there were just dudes with 4 bags, 2 in each hand, walking out, like a row of them. And then they go in, they come out, they go in, and all they do is buy the merch and then resell it.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Which is a no-no, but shoot.
It doesn't, I think.
If you have a hookup too, I mean, you got the hookup.
It's nuts. I have a friend who has a friend who gets tickets to every Sunday at the Masters.
Wow.
Yeah. I've only been invited once and I keep trying to drop hints. Like, I would love to go back, but he's got kids and family, so
the ticket lottery opens.
It's crazy.
June 2nd.
You might as well just put your name
1st,
in.
June 2nd. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to.
It's crazy.
I mean, I want to get on that line.
It's an amazing place. And it's an amazing event. And Kevin, thank you for calling us.
That was wonderful.
That is elite stuff. That is going straight to the top. I was confused because all the callers that have earned names, we've given names. I saved their names on our Google Voice, and it didn't say Correspondent Kevin, but it said it was from Correspondent Kevin in the message. So I was like, "What is this?" And then, oh man, so
top
good.
tier.
I love it, Kevin. I was happy Rory won. Okay, he's very human.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, Scotty was charging. Scotty was right there. It was sick.
Excuse me.
Anyway,
I didn't watch any of the Masters.
I know.
Bad,
You were
so
traveling.
bad.
You were traveling.
Yeah, I was on the train.
Yeah, the train didn't get it. You didn't have. You didn't have
They
video
barely
on the
have
train?
Wi-Fi. They tout that Wi-Fi like it's something. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's better on the plane.
All right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't get start talking about the train.
This guy, he loves choo-choos.
Well, actually, we have some time left.
No, everybody off, Gavin. The conductor is kicking us out. I remember once I fell asleep on the train taking it into New York City for work, and the conductor was pissed at me.
Ended up in Connecticut?
He started slamming the seat and goes, "Get out of here!" And that's what I'm saying to you people. So have a good weekend, folks.
You're in Connecticut now. Thank you so much, Correspondent Kevin. You can be like Correspondent Kevin and call us. It doesn't have to be from somewhere prestigious, though. That would be very cool. You get a lot of credit around here. 803-563-7169. We love that. Thank you so much. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from, too. That's just as good. And you can stay up to date with the latest news on SCETV.org and SouthCarolinaPublicRadio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. It's my new Friday shtick.
Do you like my new Friday thing I'm doing?